All right, diving right into this, huh? You sent a whole bunch of stuff about Superman, the animated series. Looks like you're really interested in how it changed how we see Superman.
And gotta say, I get it. This show's close to my heart, too.
What's interesting is you're focused on how they made Superman work in the 90s. This was Batman's time, all dark thanks to Tim Burton. So making Superman with the bright red and the constant good attitude feel current, that's a challenge.
Totally. It's tough. Plus, you've got Christopher Reeve's Superman there in the background. Big shoes to fill, right? Did they try to be different, or was the goal that same kind of magic?
Their first thought was actually a complete opposite. They wanted to go super retro, like those old Fleischer Superman cartoons from the 40s. Imagine. Superman against robots, those shadowy skyscrapers, all sharp lines and dark lighting.
Retro Superman. I could see that being a statement, for sure. But in this stuff you sent, there's ocean liner deco mentioned. That doesn't scream 1940s to me. And that's where Bruce Timm comes in, the guy behind the show's look. Straight nostalgia wasn't enough, he realized. He wanted classic and new at the same time, so ocean liner deco. Those old travel posters, bold colors, clean lines, but like with a futuristic spin.
So less gritty, more optimistic Art Deco. Did they ever say why that fits Superman, though?
Well, think about it. Superman's all about a better future, right? Progress and all that. And Metropolis, in this show, it just is that idea. Huge soaring buildings, shiny and kind of retro-futuristic all at once, like the whole city's reaching up, like Superman flying.
That's really cool, especially compared to Gotham, which is always so closed in and kind of scary.
Exactly. They needed something different to make Superman stand out visually. And this even plays into them using Jack Kirby's Fourth World stuff, Darkseid especially.
Darkseid's design is amazing, all sharp and huge and kind of scary. I can see that clashing with the retro idea.
For sure.
Yeah.
But this move toward a more dynamic and sharp style, it affected Superman too. Ever notice how smooth he moves?
Now that you say it, there is something about how he's drawn, how he moves. It's strong but graceful, effortless almost. Really fluid.
This is where it gets cool. Get this. A Hercules cartoon from the 60s. That was part of what made Superman look the way he does.
Wait, are you serious? Superman's design from Hercules.
One of the main animators, Dan Reba, talked about it. They were watching it just for fun, and it clicked. The way they drew Hercules, his build, his profile even, it had this energy that fit Superman perfectly.
I kind of see it, yeah. That heroic look, standing strong. It's there in how they animated Superman. It's wild where inspiration comes from, huh?
Totally. You never know. But the best part about this show is it's not just the visuals. They took Clark Kent, who was often kind of, useless almost, and actually made him cool.
You read my mind. Clark Kent was always weird to me. He's this awesome reporter, but also trips on things with glasses. Come on. But this show, they made his job and personality actually believable.
He wasn't just hiding. This Clark was a real reporter, digging up stories, challenging people. Even that fun back and forth with Lois, which, let's be honest, made it way more interesting.
Don't get me started on Lois. They could have made her a damsel easy. But no. She's smart, driven, totally holds her own with both Clark and Superman.
Right. But back to Clark. This deeper way of doing him, where he's about truth and justice in both identities, it added something a lot of other versions missed.
It's like they got that Clark chooses to be Superman. He could rule the world if he wanted, but he doesn't. He believes in people, and that's in how seriously he takes being a reporter, too.
And that's huge, because for Superman to work, especially in the cynical 90s, that human part of him has to show.
No wonder this Clark Kent became the model for later stuff, like Smallville even.
Speaking of models, let's talk about those villains, because honestly, they're not always as cool as, say, Batman's, right?
Yeah. You've got Joker, Penguin, iconic. What does Superman have? Lex Luthor, obviously. But how do you make Brainiac, Metallo? How do you make them memorable? Because this show did. They were scary.
They understood that even a crazy villain needs a reason to do what they do, something people get, like Brainiac. CAS made him this Kryptonian AI, the last one left after the planet blew up.
Wait, yeah. It's not just some random attack. He blames Jor-El, Superman's dad, for Krypton being gone.
Exactly. Now it's personal. Not just good versus evil, it's revenge, loss, even that 90s fear of technology, like AI going bad.
And it's still relevant now. That's kind of creepy. And don't even get me started on Darkseid. Bringing in that whole fourth world thing was genius.
It totally changed how big the show felt. Suddenly you've got these universe-level threats, gods practically, pushing Superman in ways Lex Luthor never could.
Plus, visually, Amazing. You've got Superman all about hope and light, literally fighting this giant, almost like monster of
It
darkness.
was epic. And they weren't afraid to show Superman struggling to make you wonder if he'd actually win.
Which is so important. If he wins every time easily, who cares?
Exactly. They had to make him vulnerable somehow, make you feel how tough it was, and they did it so well.
And the fights, so good. The animation was so fluid, so energetic, like watching the comics come to life.
Those animators were incredible. They made you feel the weight, the impact of every punch, every explosion. Epic, but still kind of real.
Like that one in World's Finest where Superman and Batman fight that huge kryptonite robot. Even now, the animation is amazing.
Totally. And those backgrounds, wow. Metropolis felt huge, full of tiny details everywhere.
You know, all this animation talk makes me want to compare it to Justice League. I remember being kind of bummed by that style after how good Stasess looked.
I feel you. Stasess had that hand-drawn charm, hard to beat. But honestly, can we talk about the music for a sec?
Oh man, yes, Shirley Walker killed it. That theme song is iconic for a reason. It's just Superman, heroic, huge, perfect.
And not just the theme. The whole score was incredible, big and epic 1 minute, then quiet and kind of sad the next. It added so much to the emotions of the show.
Music does that, right? Changes a scene completely without any words.
Totally. And while we're on sound, the voice acting. Tim Daly was Superman.
He was so good. That strong but kind voice, perfect. And Dana Delaney as Lois. Genius casting.
And Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He gave him this power, but also this danger underneath.
He made Luthor more than just a bad guy. You could hear the ambition, the frustration, even like a little sadness sometimes.
They all brought it, and it shows. The voices brought those characters to life.
It really did. It's kind of amazing how it all fit together. The animation, the music, the voices made something special.
Shows how much they cared about Superman and his world, you know. They poured everything into this show, and it shows in every single scene.
And that's why, even now, Superman, the animated series still matters to people. It wasn't just a superhero show. It was about hope, caring about others, that people can be good.
And that never gets old.
It's that mix, right? Super strong, but still human inside. That's what makes him interesting. He can move planets, but he still has to figure out the right thing to do, just like us.
Totally. And they got that. For Superman to really work, those inner struggles, those mattered as much as the big fights. One thing they did that was smart, they actually made him a little less powerful than in the comics, you know?
Really? You'd think a cartoon would go all out with the powers. Why hold back?
It's about, like, keeping it exciting. If Superman's too strong, there's no danger, right? But in Stay-Ass, you see him having to push against a building that's falling apart or an explosion knocks him back. He's still Superman, but he's working for it, so when he wins, it means more.
True. And it's not just physical stuff. They really put him through it emotionally, too, some episodes.
Oh, absolutely. Like, remember the late Mr. Kent? Clark gets framed for murder. He has to clear his name, but if he does, everyone might figure out he's Superman.
Worst nightmare fuel right there. That episode was so intense. It wasn't just saving the world. It was Clark losing everything.
And that's the core of it, why Superman's a good character. He chooses to be the hero. He could just leave, but he doesn't. So when he has those moments of doubt, wondering what he's doing, it hits harder.
Yeah, it reminds you he's not some alien robot. He's got that human side, and it's always getting tested.
And it's not just the feeling stuff. They played with his weaknesses, too. Kryptonite, obviously, but also magic, psychic attacks, stuff like that.
Which, when you think about it, makes sense. He's like a living solar panel, right? Mess with that energy, there's going to be consequences. Like how Livewire, with all her electricity, she can actually hurt him. You wouldn't think of that right away.
Exactly. Makes him use his head, his other skills, not just punch everything. Those limits, when they're done well, they make the stories better. The hero's got to be smarter.
And man, they dug up some deep cuts from the comics for this show. It wasn't just the famous villains either.
That's one of the best things about it. They weren't afraid to go deep into DC lore, pull out some obscure character or story.
Like that one where Superman ends up in a parallel universe, right? Ruled by an evil version of himself. Talk about dark.
Brave New Metropolis. Chilling. But it had a point. Makes you wonder, what if Superman was raised different? What if all that goodness went bad?
Nature versus nurture, the classic. And they really went there. And then you had guys like Lobo showing up. I had to Google him after that episode, I'll be honest.
Lobo's the perfect example of how they take a character who, on paper, is out there, space biker, loves dolphins, the whole deal, and make him fit.
And he was still a threat. But then they'd have episodes with Mr. Eng-smock's Puttle too, which were just
Those
hilarious.
were so much fun. Sure, they weren't afraid to be silly sometimes, which is important too, you know.
Yeah.
Can't be serious all the time.
Totally. It's that balance, right? You need those laughs to make the big moments hit even harder.
Speaking of big, can we talk animation? Because, wow, those fights were something else.
Seriously, how they animated him flying, his cape just flowing behind him, it was beautiful. You could feel how fast and powerful he was.
And the choreography. Every punch, every explosion, you could tell they thought about it. Epic. But it still felt kind of real, you know?
Like that fight in World's Finest when Superman and Batman are fighting that giant kryptonite robot. Even now, it looks incredible.
Absolutely. And the backgrounds. Metropolis felt huge. So much detail.
Makes me want to go back and compare it to Justice League, actually. I remember being kind of disappointed with the style of that one after how gorgeous SDS was.
I get it. That hand-drawn look is special. But speaking of, can we talk about the music for a second?
Oh, man, the music. Shirley Walker crushed it. That theme song is legendary for a reason. It just is Superman.
And not just that, the whole score was amazing. Big and heroic one minute, and kind of quiet and emotional the next. Added a whole other layer to the show.
Music is powerful like that, right? It doesn't need words to make you feel something.
Totally. And since we're on sound, the voice acting. Tim Daly, he was Superman.
He was so perfect, that strong but warm voice. And Dana Delaney as Lois. Couldn't have picked better.
And Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He had that powerful voice, but with his edge of danger to it.
He made Luthor so much more than just a bad guy. You could hear the ambition, the anger, even a little sadness sometimes.
They all brought their A game, that's for sure. The voices really brought those characters to life.
For real. It's crazy how it all came together so well. Animation, music, the voice acting made something really special.
Shows you how much they loved Superman and that world. They poured their hearts into it. And you can see it in every part of it.
And that's why, even now, all these years later, Superman, the animated series still matters. It wasn't just a superhero show. It was about hope, about caring, about people being good, even when it's tough.
And that never goes out of style.
You know, it's funny. We've been talking about all the things that made the show great, the pieces, right? But for me, even as a kid, it was how it all just worked together. That's what got me.
Absolutely. It's like they took everything good about Superman, the action, the heart, even the funny parts, and made it all fit together perfectly, like one story.
Yeah, and it never talked down to you either. Like, it knew kids could get big ideas even if they were sad or tough.
That's so true, and it's forgotten sometimes. That cartoons are just for kids. This show proved you can tell grown-up stories, serious stories, in animation. And those stories, they work for everyone, no matter your age.
And they weren't afraid to just let things be quiet sometimes, you know? Give the characters space, let them grow.
Like that scene in Legacy. Superman talking to Darkseid about hope, just believing in things. So simple, but so good.
Right. Darkseid, he's all about how everything sucks, basically. He doesn't get why Superman even bothers after all that's happened.
And Superman, perfect answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I choose to. Like, even with all the bad stuff, he still believes. That says so much about him.
Makes you think, you know, we all have a choice, right? Be cynical or say, no, I'm going to have hope.
Exactly. That's why Superman sticks around as a character. He's that best part of us, what we should be.
Makes you wonder, though. The world now, it's messy, complicated. Is that kind of pure optimism? Does it still work?
Big question, right? Tough one. No easy answer. But I think
Yeah.
we need stories like this more now, not less.
Stories showing there's still good out there. That even if you just do something nice for someone, it matters.
And that even when it seems impossible, when everything's against you, don't give up hope.
Yeah. Because Superman taught us that, right? Hope's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice worth making.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, as we wrap up looking at Superman, the animated series, I think the big thing is it wasn't just a show, right? It was like it showed us what we could be, maybe, if we actually tried to be good instead of just giving up.
And it changed animation, superhero stories, everything that came after it. The stuff we love now, it owes a lot to this show.
So next time you need a little boost, you know, things are rough, you forget there's good, watch an episode.
It might surprise you how much those stories still mean.
And that's it for this deep dive, but keep thinking, yeah, because we're not done talking about this stuff.
Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep believing in stories. They can change us for the better.
And hey, if you ever need to fly, just remember, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman.